Hello everyone, this is Nitpicking Nerd, and I just watched the new episode of the Orville called Tomorrow, Tomorrow and Tomorrow. And it was a slightly below average episode in my opinion. It was kind of slow. I wouldn't say it's boring, but it's kind of slow and also a bit predictable, especially for someone like me who saw so many science fiction shows. And it's one of the things I always complain about the Orville. One of the only flaws, in my opinion, of the Orville is that sometimes it just copies the same ideas that other shows did before, and I much prefer to see something original, something surprising, something I never saw before. And Orville did have a few episodes like that, especially in season 1, and that's why I so highly praised the Orville when it did original stories, at least relatively original. And in this episode it felt like once again it's kind of recycling of older ideas, which are not bad ideas. That's why I don't hate the episode, I still like it. And it was done slightly differently from ever before, so I don't dislike it, but I can't give it high points. It's not really that original. And also a bit predictable and a bit slow as well, so that's why I say it's a below average episode, but still enjoyable, still kind of relaxing. You know, one of the things that are good about the Orville is that it is kind of a relaxing show. That's one of the things I used to like about the older Star Trek shows. Not every episode has to be action-packed and epic. Like sometimes it's okay, it's even good to just sit back and watch a relaxed show. So what are the similarities? Well, first of all, Kelly and Ed were always kind of the Riker and Troy of this show. Also a bit similar to Jack O'Neill and Carter in SG1, who kind of had a thing for each other but couldn't really do anything with it because they were both in the military and it's not allowed. So there was always that kind of tension between them. So this show is doing something similar with Kelly and Ed. Ed always wants to get back together and she doesn't, mostly because she doesn't think it will work if they're captain and first officer, then they shouldn't be in a relationship, which makes sense obviously. And we see Isaac doing experiments on that time device that they had since the first episode of season 1, which is kind of strange that the Orville kept that thing and never used it since. I can think of a lot of times that it could have been useful, but no one ever suggested using that again. And why didn't the Union take that device away? Why it's still on the Orville? And then Kelly comes into that room and there's some kind of malfunction because of some spatial anomaly. And then a second Kelly appeared from 7 years ago, so she's a younger Kelly who got pulled out of her time and she doesn't yet know anyone on the Orville. She only knows Ed because she's from the time in which she was still dating him. And so I immediately thought about the TNG episode called Second Chances, but then I thought, you know, it's more similar to the SG1 episode Point of View, in which another Carter from an alternate universe arrived to the base and she had a different haircut, and in her universe she was married to Jack O'Neill. And her O'Neill died, and so she wants a relationship with our O'Neill. And so that made this entire episode very predictable for me. I knew exactly where this is going. And also it's very similar to the TNG episode Second Chances, in which they meet another Riker who was a result of a transporter malfunction, a Riker who got stuck on some other planet, and he is from the time in which he was still dating Troy, and so once he comes to the Enterprise he wants to resume the relationship with Troy. And so I immediately knew where this episode is going because I saw so many very similar episodes, which probably inspired this one. And also I thought to myself, how convenient is it that that device pulled her from exactly that time? But then they kind of explained that in the episode. They said that it was because Kelly was thinking about that time, that's why it pulled her from that specific time. And that kind of reminds me of the TNG episode called Remember Me, in which Beverly went to engineering during an experiment which went wrong, and she got trapped in some warp bubble, which also kind of read her thoughts and created a reality matching what she was thinking about in that moment. And so something similar happened here with Kelly, because she was thinking about that time when all of this happened. That's why she got pulled from that specific time. So I guess that explains that coincidence. And there's a scene about trying to decide what to tell this young Kelly, if they should tell her the truth about what happened in her future. And surprisingly they decide to tell her the truth, which kind of goes against what was usually done in Star Trek. You know, they always try to protect the past, not try to change anything. And in this case they simply decide to tell her the whole truth right away, and they even make her an officer on the Orville, but she's a lieutenant, not a commander, so she wears a different uniform, so it's easy to distinguish them. So this is exactly like in the TNG episode Second Chances. The second Riker from the past was a lieutenant, and there was some kind of tension between the older Riker and the younger, and of course the young Kelly wants to resume the relationship with Ed Mercer, and he's tempted to do it. And it was mostly used as a drama, like there wasn't that much humor in this episode. That's also one of the reasons I don't rank it that high. The only funny scene to me was when they went into that club in the simulator and we saw Yaphet dancing there. That kind of made me laugh. Just that visual effect alone was kind of funny. And later they showed Bortos and Clyde and also dancing, but I didn't find that one as funny. Maybe because it was a little bit over the top, it was a little bit kind of too silly, so it kind of didn't work for me, but the bit with Yaphet was kind of hilarious. And also it's funny how they showed like the older Ed is not really in the mood for those kinds of activities anymore, so he's kind of, he sees the problem of dating someone younger, so that was interesting. And there were even some similar lines, like the young Kelly telling the old Kelly that she always thought that by this age she will be captain. And I think there was a very similar line by Riker in that episode. I'll probably do a whole bunch of compilations to show the similarity of all the stuff I'm talking about. Just for fun. It's not really a criticism of the Orville. As I said many times, I'm okay with them kind of getting the inspiration and doing similar stuff if they improve on the source material. If they make it better than how it was before, then I'm personally okay with that. And I'm only getting annoyed at similarities if it's done worse than before, if it's kind of a bad remake, if they do the same idea but not as good, then it is a bit annoying because it's like a cheap imitation. In this case, in this episode, is it done better or worse? I would say it's pretty much the same level, so it's pretty much the same thing. So it does cause me to take a few points away because I think it should be done better. And there was a scene of the Orville picking up a few Kalon ships and they get scared and they try to avoid them. So that reminded me of a few TNG episodes in which they were always worried about encountering the Borg again in the later seasons, always kind of trying to hide from the Borg. And they take the Orville into the frozen rings of a planet to try to hide them, so they deliberately land on a frozen asteroid and they shut down all the power so that they're not detected by the Kalons. And that scene kind of reminded me of a Deep Space Nine scene in which Odo took a runabout also into some icy asteroid field. And they landed on such an asteroid and shut down all the power as not to be detected by Jem'Hadar warships, so this was very similar to that scene in The Empire Strikes Back in which they hide in an asteroid field, and even Star Trek Discovery tried to imitate that recently as well, but I think it was done much better here because the special effects here are pretty beautiful, so very well done. Visually I really enjoy the special effects, probably much better than all the ones I mentioned. And the Kalons failed to find them and move on, so that was the only kind of tenseful action scene of this whole episode. But I like how it ties with the bigger threat to the galaxy by the Kalons, so it's nice to have the Kalons as the villains now. And in the end of the episode they find a way to send her back to her own time and they erase her memory so she doesn't remember all of this, and then she appears back in the past. And we don't know if she retains some of her memories or if it's just by instinct, but she actually turns down the Ed in the past. And that's the end of the episode, so that was kind of surprising, so I did like that final twist. And I'm guessing that means in the next episode we'll actually see an alternate timeline in which everything changed, so maybe it will be kind of like the mirror universe episode of this series. Maybe it will be a darker reality, maybe one in which the Kalons wiped out Earth or something like that, something much darker in which the Orville never saved the Union. Maybe because Mercer never became the captain, because Kelly never helped him get that command, and so obviously all the stuff we saw of the Orville saving the Union, that will not happen, and therefore it will be a dark dystopian future, which is a nice idea. So I'm looking forward to the next episode, which I think will be the season final, I'm not sure. So my prediction is that it will be kind of the mirror universe episode of this show. Probably similar to the episode Yesterday's Enterprise, in which the Federation was in war with the Klingons because something went wrong in the past, and they had to fix it to restore the proper timeline, and so I'm betting something like that will happen in the next one. And I'm guessing the new alternate Kelly will be the only one who knows what went wrong, because if the mind wipe didn't work, she remembers the future how it's supposed to be, and she will see that suddenly, the Kalons wiped out the Union, and there are only a bunch of survivors and refugees, and she's the only one who knows how the timeline should have went, because we also had the scene of them telling her all about the Kalons, and how Isaac saved the Union, so that probably didn't happen in the new timeline. And so maybe this Kelly will have to find the crew of the Orville and bring them all together in order to change the timeline back to how it was supposed to be. So that's my prediction. Let me know what you think about all of this and we can discuss it in the comment section. And I will see you all next time. Bye bye.